Welcome back to the range. If you've spent any time at deer camp or parked next to a wood stove in an old hunting lodge on a cold November evening, you're practically guaranteed to hear someone preaching the gospel of the 243 Winchester. And honestly, I get the appeal. This cartridge is an absolute sweetheart to shoot. Recoil, practically non-existent. You can run rounds through it all day without ever developing a flinch. It shoots flat. It's mechanically accurate. It's earned legendary status as the ultimate do-it-all problem solver. Hunters trust it to vaporize woodchucks at 400 yards, then turn around and drop a whitetail in its tracks. But here's the thing, that reputation can be a trap. The 243 is almost too good for its own sake. It's so smooth, so easy to drive, that it lulls shooters into a false sense of security. People start thinking this little 6mm pill is a magic wand, able to ignore the laws of physics. And eventually, usually at the absolute worst moment, reality shows up. Let me tell you something. You never discover a cartridge's limit-punching paper on a sunny afternoon. You find it when the buck of a lifetime steps out. You break the trigger, and the round fails to deliver the hydrostatic shock you needed to end the fight. That's why we need to cut through the nostalgia and look at the hard data. The 243 Winchester is phenomenal, but it has hard limitations. Limitations that old-timers forget to mention, and new shooters haven't learned yet. This is the 243 paradox. The issue nobody wants to discuss until the tag goes unfilled. So let's break this down. The bloodline. To understand where we are, we have to flip through the history books. For the first 50 years of the 20th century, the American shooter wanted absolutely nothing to do with 6mm bullets. It was a ghost town. If you were desperate for a 243 diameter projectile back then, your only real option was the 6mm Lee Navy, and that was chambered in that quirky Lee straight pull bolt action. A handful of sporting rifles existed, but by 1935, the cartridge was effectively dead and buried. Meanwhile, across the pond in Europe, it was a totally different ballgame. British gunmakers were experimenting with 6mm rounds way ahead of the curve. In the 1920s, heavy hitters like Holland and Perry rolled out exotic rounds. We're talking the 240 flange Nitro Express and the 2 M46 Purdy. Between 1895 and the Roaring '20s, Europe birthed at least half a dozen 6mm cartridges. Here in the States, radio silence. That's exactly why 1955 was a pivotal moment in firearms history. Seemingly overnight, both Winchester and Remington decided to drop new 6mm cartridges on the American public. It was an immediate showdown. The 243 Winchester versus the 244 Remington. Winchester played it smart. They took the brand new 308 Winchester case and just necked it down. Simple, efficient. Remington? They took a different path. They based their design on the classic 7.57 Mauser case, the same parent case that gave us the legendary 257 Roberts. On paper, the Remington actually had the edge. Slightly longer body, more boiler room for powder, higher potential velocities. The 243 was a short, squat little round designed to fit into short-action receivers. Even though, in 1955, the true short-action sporting rifle was still in its infancy. The marketing war. If you were a gambling man in the mid-50s looking strictly at ballistics data, the 244 Remington looked like the heavy favorite. Faster, more case capacity. What's not to love? But Winchester had an ace up their sleeve, and it wasn't velocity, it was versatility. Winchester chambered the 243 in their flagship Model 70. They also put it in the Model 88 lever action. Savage 99 picked it up almost immediately. They flooded the zone. Remington. Catastrophic error. They completely misunderstood the American shooter. They marketed the 244 exclusively as a long-range varmint cartridge, sold with 75 and 90 grain bullets. And here's the nail in the coffin. A slow 1 in 12 twist rifling. Perfect for light, speedy varmint grenades. Absolutely useless for stabilizing the long, heavy bullets you need for deer hunting. They crippled their own cartridge right out of the gate. Winchester? They pitched the 243 as a dual-purpose hybrid, a gun you could use on Coyote Saturday, Whitetail Sunday, loaded with 80 grain pills for speed, 100 grain soft points for meat. Most importantly, they used a faster 1 in 10 twist to stabilize those heavier projectiles. The market spoke immediately. The 243 Winchester became a runaway freight train of success. The 244 Remington withered on the vine. By 1963, Remington practically waved the white flag, rebranded as the 6mm Remington. Tighten twist to 1 in 9. Finally offered a 100-grain load. Too little, too late. The war was over. If you're splitting hairs at the reloading bench, sure, the 6mm Remington is technically superior, especially in a long action. But in the gun industry, perception is reality. The 243 Winchester took the crown, and it has held it with a death grip for 70 years. Undisputed king of the 6mm world. From Texas brush country to stalkers in the Scottish Highlands, this round is everywhere. Others tried. 240 Weatherby Magnum, the short-lived 243 WSSM, Winchester Super Short Magnum. All failed to gain traction. Nothing touches the ubiquity of the 243. Ballistics and application. Let's talk numbers that built this dynasty. Bread and butter factory loads, 80-grain bullets at 3350 feet per second, or 100-grain soft points cruising at 2960. Modern ammo tech has blown the doors wide open. Screamers as light as 55 grains, heavy hitters up to 105 grains, covers the spectrum from prairie dogs to pronghorn antelope. Rule of engagement, under 90 grains, varmints. Rapid explosive fragmentation, 90 grains and above, big game. Controlled expansion, deep penetration. Accuracy, across the board, superb. Varmint hunters love the Winchester 55-grain ballistic silver tip. Box says 39 feet per second. I've seen 26-inch barrels push that over 4,000 feet per second. Red Mist machine, long-range predator hunters, 80-grain loads. Buck the wind significantly better than 22 caliber centerfires. But let's be real. The 243 earned its stripes as a deer cartridge. Accurate, gentle on the shoulder, not intimidating. That's why it's the default first rifle for millions of American hunters, myself included. The tool you hand a new shooter to build confidence, without punishing them. The hidden cost. For all its virtues, the 243 has a dark side. Inside typical hunting ranges, 200 yards or so? Lethal. Gets the job done. Stretch that distance or face a heavy-bodied buck. The equation changes fast. Energy sheds quickly at extended ranges. Perfect double-lung shot? Fine. Margin for error? Razor thin, compared to a 7mm or 308. Less forgiveness for bad angles or a few inches of wind push. Second issue, barrel wear. The 243 is a notorious barrel burner. Massive volume of superheated gas through a tiny 6mm bore. Overbore cartridge. Heat and pressure blast the throat like a sandblaster. Matches or prairie dog towns? Accuracy drops fast. I've seen barrels lose their edge in as little as 500 rounds. For the casual shooter, 1 box a year to check zero? No problem. For serious training or long-range sessions, real logistical and financial limitation. Combine limited terminal energy and aggressive throat erosion. You start to see cracks in the armor. Bottom line, the 243 Winchester isn't perfect. Its strength lies in knowing exactly what it can do, and more importantly, what it cannot do. Keep it in its comfort zone, one of the most capable, pleasant cartridges ever designed. Push it beyond 500-yard elk shots, high-volume barrel heaters. You're going to have a bad time. Consequences can be heartbreaking. Knowing that line, that's the difference between a freezer full of venison and a long walk back to the truck with only a story about the one that got away. I hope you got value out of that breakdown. If you did, crush that like button. Subscribe so you don't miss the next upload. Drop a comment. Tell me your war stories with the 243. Good or bad, I want to hear them. Train hard. Stay safe. We'll see you in the next one.